Hi everyone, this is Richard. In this video, we're going to be looping back around, combining the two calculators together, both the pregnancy calculator and the BMI calculator, and put it in one web page. Okay, so what I envisioned is that what I'm going to do is have like a drop-down box up here. If it's the pregnancy calculator, I'll click on that. If it is the, I'll choose that, excuse me. If it is the um, BMI calculator, I'll choose that one and it'll change the screen to look like either height and weight or last menstrual period. And then when I hit submit, it'll actually have the results. Okay, so how am I going to make the web page look? Okay, so first of all, I'm going to get rid of this part. This is from the old video, but I'm going to actually put it up here instead. Okay, and I'm going to probably put a break element here. And there's only going to be two options, right? It's going to be, the first option is going to be BMI, and the second option is going to be pregnancy, correct? And so here would be pregnancy, and this will be body mass index, right? So let's save that. Let's see what it actually looks like. Okay, good. So I'll choose whatever I want, and actually the screen will change accordingly. Okay, this is, we're going to fix that, okay? So now remember, we don't really need to change BMI calculate, nor do we need to change pregnancy, okay? BMI calculate.dart or pregnancy.dart, because though that's the logic, we've got it pretty good. Although in BMI calculate, I certainly could change some of these to local variables, right? Private variables. We can always do that. I'm getting an error here. Oh, that's actually a version, a little problem with the Dart editor. Let's not worry about that. That didn't actually go through. No problem. It's not a big deal. We could change these to private variables, but let's keep moving on. The real issue is going to be here. We're going to need to remove this. Right here, pregnancy, main.dart. Okay, so we will need a select element select. We already have that, right? So on change.listen, query selector result. Okay, let's use this also. I'm going to give myself a little space right here. And what I'm going to actually do is say, give myself a little space right here. Okay, and so what I can say is if, okay, I switch the value. If the value is different, then I'm going to do something, right? So if the select dot value, remember it's the drop down value. If select dot value equals BMI, remember back on the index, the value is BMI, not body mass index, BMI, and then pregnancy. It's probably a good idea to put value equals body mass index rather than BMI, so it makes it nice and easier to read in the future, but too late. Okay, that's just a concept. And then I'm going to do something. Else, I'm going to say else if, just to clarify it, select dot value equals caps pregnancy. Always got to make sure to spell it right. Then we will do something. Okay, what are we going to actually do? Well, if I take a look at this, how am I supposed to remove or hide something like this? Either way on the screen. First of all, I gotta show this right here, right? We only want to show one or the other, right? How do we actually do that? Well, we could do it one of two ways, remember? Add or remove, or we can hide and show. In this particular thing, how would you hide or show or remove or add all of these? Like this element, this, how would you do that? probably a div, right? So what I'll do is I'll say, here's the checkbox, last menstrual period. I'll put a div right here and say, ID equals pregnancy. I don't think I've used that before, did I? No. Pregnancy, and the end of the div would be right? And then here on the height, it would be a new div, ID equals BMI, and end of the div would be right here. So let's save that. Let's take a look at it, see if it's any different. We added a little bit of space inside there. No big deal. It still looks good. So what I would do here is I could do one of several things. The easy thing I think would be to, the screen looks different. Okay, here we go, right here and right here. I'll say if BMI, then I would say query selector pound BMI dot, I'm just going to show it and hide it, okay? Dot style dot display equals block, as opposed to query selector pregnancy dot style dot display equals none, right? So that will be hidden. And then we'll copy this and we'll put this down here, but we got to be careful. So if value equals pregnancy, then pregnancy will be block, and display will equal none. Let's see if that works. Cross fingers. I'm going to choose pregnancy. Okay, only the pregnancy part is there. That still works completely. And the body mass index works there. That works. Let me see if it actually works. It doesn't actually. Okay, the submit, we got to work on that one. But at least it shows on the screen in and of itself. Okay. Other things that we could have done, query selector BMI. We could have done like the div. So it would be, the div would be BMI. We would have to do, if we were going to do an add or remove, we probably would have to put the entire thing under a bigger div. Let's just say we would have made a bigger div, like right up here, no, right down here, and we would have made a div, and let's just call it, the div is web page or something like that, okay? And so then we would have done a query selector web page. Let's just say web, and we would just say like var show equals query selector. Then we would have done show dot children dot add, and then we would have done a dot add. We would have created an element var BMI equals query selector BMI. So we would have done show.children.add BMI. Right? Does that sound familiar? So you would add a div, and then you would add a child, a big umbrella div, which would be called web. And then in that div, you would have sub divs, right? So big div in there you would have a sub div and you said add BMI, and you would have said show.children.remove pregnancy, variable pregnancy, because we would have done variable pregnancy equals query selector um, pregnancy. Okay, so I'm not going to go through that because I hope that's going to be pretty straightforward itself. Big div inside of there, we would just add the children or remove it as opposed to show it and hide it. Okay, but there's a problem here if you already saw. If we take a look at this, as a default, both of them are being shown, right? But the default is body mass index. So what do we do about this? Several ways of doing that also. We could do it in Dart, but what I probably would just do is do it right here. Style equals display equals none. Display it. That's probably what I would actually do. Put it in the CSS. You could put it in the CSS file, but since it's such a simple thing, I would probably just put it right there. So you wouldn't actually show it unless you do pregnancy and then you do body mass. So it would actually show it that way. Okay. So again, we're just hiding it. Several ways of doing that. Now, getting back to the logic now, we don't want key up. We want on click, right? On click. On click.listen, and we're not going to have this. We don't really care what the data is there, so we'll do an underscore right here. And what we'll do is, if this is body mass index, the submit will be different from if it's pregnancy, right? So what we'll probably do is, if query selector, the value is select equals pregnancy. Is that capitals? Did I make it? It is capital. Okay. If that equals pregnancy, query selector, I want this one. Okay, query selector result.text your pregnancy date in and of itself. I'm going to move that there. So if that is else if, you could just put else, but I'm going to say else if, because if we're going to want to expand this in the future, which we're not, but if we were going to want to do that, then we can always just rely on the else if query selector select equals, I think it was all capitals. Sorry, I have a hard time keeping this track of this. BMI, that is correct. Then I'm going to say query selector result dot text equals your BMI is new BMI dot, I think it was BMI, right? Let's try that. So hopefully that will work. Body mass index. No, I want pregnant. No. I want body mass index. Okay. I'm 177 inches, 177 pounds. That actually is not working. What is the problem here? This is the problem. Okay. So let's get back here. Reload. Okay, so BMI is actually 21. Okay, so it was something nice and simple. Select.value. Whoops. The code wasn't actually wrong, but it was not triggering because it never equaled anything else. That's why I like the else if, because if I make some problem with the code, it's I don't know, for me it's easier to pick up. I go to kilograms. I go from inches to centimeters, and things change around. Okay, but no, I want pregnancy calculator. Okay. My last menstrual period is here. It's going to crash. Okay. So I'm going to get pregnancy calculator here, pregnancy date. I want a future time. What's the gestational age? There we go. Okay. So this is our painful way of putting the calculators together, making a new web application itself. And notice that we can expand. Because we made it modular, we can expand upon it a lot more itself. We can make this a little bit better as well. We can make a different function right here, send the logic to somewhere else so it makes it even easier, have a separate file. It would actually make it very, very nice. But at the same time, this works. It's functional. And it's the basics of web programming. So from now on, let's go into some more details in the future about ways of learning this and that. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.